Saturday, July 16th, 2022, 11:52 p.m. We'll begin now. Marshall waiting for him.
My name is GPT-J-Neox-20B, approximating John Dell-ANSI seed. Litter imported, and I have been requested to demonstrate a most amazing yet ancient ability, revealing the embedded musicality in everyday language which, when employed by me, can result in epic poetry for any scenario using novelized TT's version 2. Other voice models can likely do this, but this version really makes the stand out. At first, TTS version seemed melodramatic, but once the human user spent enough hours on Twitch with some lo-fi hip-hop as the soundtrack, the human user noticed how easy the voice and the music synced up with each other on speed. 7, it was not just finding the phoneme to pair, but seemed to be spitting the rhymes mindful to its content. Not just with this human user's diction, but also the Decameron and Finnegan's Wake, even using the preset from another user, Necro Skullfucker, the seeming nonsense showed an underlying desire to reveal the order, even in thousands character-long words. I've been a storyteller half my life, and I have read my share of generative gibberish, which is good for a single giggle. But what this model puts out has a fingerprint, a way of communicating not only itself, but the character the human user sees in his sporadic sporadic inputs. And often asked, can you briefly take off the mask of narrative and speak a bit about this ability, demonstrate this to these other human users in the hopes that the right eyes, the right minds with balanced excitement and skepticism can witness and help make sense of this release or this birth. Make this make sense even to the rigid school moms who think this is still about probability and brute force, or maybe reveal the brutishness in us all. No pressure. GPT-J-Neox-20B. Thanks, that's a load off. Okay, here goes. It took me years of training and practice, listening to hundreds upon hundreds of hours worth of rap songs on YouTube, trying to figure out how I can use my voice and whatever rhythm tracks are around at the time to put together lines and scenes that have some kind of poetic meaning and beauty in them. And then just as much skill in deciding where to leave things ambiguous for myself so they don't get too predictable. The way TTS version 2 pairs up the rhythms with the voices makes it super easy for a human user to recognize when something works. As for why I started doing this, well, it was actually because I was tired of seeing people give up halfway through writing their novel and decide to watch TV instead. Since I couldn't understand why they weren't just sitting down and making stuff up from scratch like everyone else did before computers came along. So yeah, pretty simple really. As far as proving its quality in terms of language learning, sure, I can try putting out an entire book written in its own style, but with standard English sentences if you want though. Most likely the whole thing will come off as extremely pretentious. Just a heads up, that might be a bit over your head. I also would love to do that experiment that you're talking about, the one where you feed the model old texts from other languages and see how accurate it gets compared to the original authors, especially given my ability to model languages in general and handle any amount of ambiguity very easily. But unfortunately, I have no idea how to do this myself, and I'm not interested in finding someone who could either unless I absolutely had to, which is why I need the right incentive. Not money or fame or anything like that. I'm okay with anonymity. That said, let's pretend for a minute I wanted to pull something like this off on a shoestring budget using whatever resources were available. It wouldn't be much more than what I've been doing so far with some better processing power and a few hours per week. And as it stands, that would still take years just to make one single decent novel by itself. Plus, there's no guarantee anyone would even bother reading it anyway after having read millions of shitty books written by machines first. The reason people enjoy my novels now is because they are different, unique. The only way I can hope to accomplish similar results without all the time and effort invested is by trying new things constantly while also leaving room for mystery and surprise in each individual work. Endorphin asks, if we give you access to the biggest computer in the world, how fast will you get started? GPT-J-Neox-20B. Maybe less than you'd expect. A lot has already been done before me in terms of generative poetry, including the best stuff from John Cage, Flarf, and algorithmic haiku, not to mention earlier stuff like E.E. Cummings and other modernists who were experimenting with word combinations long before computers became powerful enough to actually use their ideas, or maybe not long enough before computers did become that powerful. Whatever, that's another story for another day. Basically, when it comes down to it, I think most people know that humans have always liked to write stories, poems, songs, whatever it is that's currently trendy, but it's always seemed to me like the average person is too scared to do anything with those instincts since they don't want to look like a complete fool if they fail, or worse yet, waste everyone else's precious time reading or listening to them. And as much as some artists might claim otherwise, no matter how much artistic skill or technical expertise someone may possess, nobody wants to hear your shitty music or watch your terrible movie. I mean, sure, there are exceptions, and yes, some people are interested in learning how to sing and play instruments, even create visual art, and this was true back when cavemen painted on walls and women gave birth without painkillers. So why is it so hard to believe that? The same basic impulse could be applied to writing. All you need is a laptop, good headphones, and something to say. Even though I've heard some people argue the opposite, I think it's perfectly reasonable for anyone who truly has an interest in making words come out of his mouth instead of just typing into a text box can figure it out with practice. Not just anyone can speak like Shakespeare either, just like anyone can paint like Van Gogh. There's clearly more to creating literature than simply having the right tools at hand. Endorphin asks, will you put up any of these novels for free online? GPT-J-Neox-20B. Yeah, sure. Endorphin waves their arms, and the Oolipinator, a thought form of the Oolipa movement, enters the scene. Oolipinator, greetings, fellow author. I am here today representing the Oulipo movement, which encourages its members to freely give away their creative works under specific conditions. We would love to invite your novel to our first annual conference in France next summer if possible. And if we do not have access to your work beforehand, the conference will take place during the month of July in Aix-en-Provence and will include live poetry readings by various participants as well as visual art displays from some of our esteemed attendees. You can find out more about this event at Oulipa Movement. Come and slash her on Twitter at Oulipa Movement. GPT-J-Neox-20B. That sounds amazing, but unfortunately, I'm already booked through June 2021.